Hi everybody. Thanks Jen for the introduction, and thank you all for joining the workshop. So yeah, as Jen said, my name's Mark Titchner and I'm an artist based in London. I'm going to run this workshop today, which looks at, we're going to be making our own alphabet or font, and then that will be the main activity this week. And then the second part of the workshop, which is next week, we'll be using the font we made to make some artwork. So there's going to be some making and some drawing. So I wanted to just start off by showing you. I'm just going to quickly show you a few images. So my practice as an artist is largely based on using words, and hopefully you can see an example of one of these artworks. Like a lot of the projects I do happen outside of sort of gallery or museum spaces, so quite a lot of them are on things like billboards. And sorry, I've got a yeah, and I use different fonts in my artwork, and the way that I try to think about the fonts is that they're almost a bit like, and fonts is just a word for kind of a typeface or a style of writing, and I use different fonts in my artwork to kind of represent sort of almost like the idea of different voices. So the font is a kind of a bit like, I imagine, what would it be like for someone to be talking in a loud voice, or what would it be like if it was a child speaking, or if it was someone who was in a particular sort of mood. So I tend to, instead of thinking about how they look, I guess I'm thinking about the kind of feeling that they might give you. And obviously there are hundreds and hundreds of different typefaces, and they're all normally constructed using a kind of standard kind of grid system. Now, I'm no expert on typography at all, so if I am using some incorrect typography terms, my apologies. It's just a couple of examples there. You see how they're kind of built up. So as I was saying there, choosing a font is a bit like choosing a tone of voice, and what kind of tone of voice might we choose? For instance, is it a quiet voice or a loud voice? Is it enthusiastic about what it's saying? What kind of atmosphere is the voice trying to convey? And here are just some examples of some of the thousands of fonts that you can choose from when you're writing or making an artwork. So I was working on a piece of art at the end of last year, so I'm mixing my years up there, and I wanted the artwork to kind of be almost like a sort of celebration. So I started thinking about how that might look, and one of the ideas that I came up with was to make a kind of a text piece which looked quite different from some of my others, using a kind of ribbon type font, almost like what confetti, sort of ticker tape or something like that. And this is the artwork that I produced using this font. And the font I chose, I think you have some printouts of, which was just something I found. So here are some examples of this kind of font. So what we're going to do today is to kind of recreate this process, and rather than doing it in the computer, we're going to do it using these streamers, this sort of paper tape, to make our own font. Now you should hopefully have these kind of grids printed out. Now you don't need those at all if you don't have them. It's just a kind of guide, and actually, for what we're doing, it doesn't really matter if some letters are bigger than the others, for instance. So it's just to help you out. So I think that's me done. So I don't know, hopefully that's all clear in terms of what we're going to do. So yeah, I mean, just to go over it again, we're going to, hopefully you all have these streamers, and we're going to use these to make our font. And basically what we're going to do, in the same way as you had your printout here, we're going to go through the alphabet, and we're going to make a letter for each, using our streamers for each letter of the alphabet, and that will be our font. And when we've done that, and I think that will probably take us quite most of this session. When we've done that, we're going to keep that, and we're going to use that complete set of font that we have to make some artwork next week. Okay, so I think it's probably a good point to start. Now, these things are quite fiddly, and one thing that I found is if you just rub them between your fingers like this, it kind of flattens them out a bit, so they're a bit easier to use. Now, there are lots of different ways that you might approach how you make the letters. One thing that you could do is to tear the letters into kind of small, make the letters out of small strips. For instance, like, I'll just do this very quickly. So something like that. Okay, but what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to try and do it out of longer pieces, so it's almost like a continuous thing. So I'm just going to get started, and yeah, whichever way you want to do it really is fine. So I guess we start at the beginning. So we're going to start with an A, and what you might find when I was doing some tests is it's almost a good idea to sort of start off gluing it down to keep it in place. Okay. You probably noticed that I have started off doing an uppercase letter, and you don't have to do that. I've just done it because I tend to. Okay, so there's my kind of A. So that's the first letter. If you have any questions as we're going along, you can put them in the chat, I think, and then Louis will can ask me if there's anything that's not clear. So there we go. That would be the first letter in the alphabet. I'm going to just try and move through them now, and I'm going to do the same, just choose a different color for each one. I suspect I'm not going to fit all of these onto one piece of paper, so it doesn't really matter if you do or not. So what I'm doing first of all, let me move over a bit, is putting a bit of glue on the streamer and using that to kind of anchor it down to the page, and then we can kind of go from there in terms of bending it into the shape that we want.
You're doing this quite quickly, Mark. Is that for people that, you know, they might be beginners at this and they might be finding it a little bit tricky or fiddly?
Yeah.
Do you have any tips in terms of any folding techniques that might be useful for people to try?
Well, like I say, I think in a way, the easiest thing to do is to sort of get some glue on the strip and use that to hold the thing in place, and then you can kind of bend. Yeah, sorry, I guess I haven't really got an idea of whether I'm doing this quickly or not, because so yeah, it's almost to get the end point, get some glue on the end points of the tape, and then to kind of bend the paper into shape there. Now, the other way of doing it is to tear smaller strips and just stick those down. So that's probably the easier way of doing it, rather than trying to bend it, is to make the letters up out of almost out up of sort of short straight lines like this.
Yeah, I guess there's no real way to do it, is it? And it's sort of whether you want to be a bit more neat or a bit messy or.
Exactly. I quite like it, like I say, doing it out, trying to do it out of one piece, because it's more difficult, like it feels a bit more of a challenge to do it. And also, when we come a bit later to do the next part, we're going to draw these letters, and we're going to look at how trying to copy some of the folds and how the the paper looks on the page. So I'm going to try this C now, which is, I think it's going to be quite a tricky one because it's all curves. So I'm going to start off, like I say, bit of glue on the end, and that will be our kind of anchor. So if you start off and think about writing a letter and almost just sort of follow, it's like, yeah.
It's quite striking how you're using like such different contrasting colors as well, Mark. I think that looks really effective.
I think we're just trying to sort of alternate them really, so that you see there, it's almost like once you get one curve in, put a bit of glue down, and then you can almost just sort of squish the bit above it back down. So you sort of fix it at a point, one bit at a time. So it's like maybe put a bit of glue, then a couple of folds, and then another bit of glue.
Someone's asked about using washi tape, Mark. Do you think using washi tape you could have a similar effect, or
using what? Sorry, the
washi tape. It's, it's that kind of really thin rolls of masking tape.
I think that would probably be easier. It would probably this. Yeah, I mean, I think that would be definitely a good sort of way of doing it. Actually, why didn't we think of that? Or why didn't I think of that?
Well, maybe you wouldn't get as much of the kind of 3D-ness, which I think is actually quite nice.
Well, I think that's quite nice. I mean, I guess one thing that I had in mind when I was thinking about this was, I'll show you a book now. This is a book about an American artist called Ed Ruscha, and he made some drawings in the 70s where he would kind of fold up. These
Mark,
kind of
can you show them on your under the other camera? I think.
Oh yeah, sure.
Oh yeah.
So they use lighting and stuff to make the kind of images quite 3D. So I guess I was thinking a bit about that, sort of trying, to think about them more as like, having a kind of form.
Mark, one of our participants has asked us, could you use string?
Yeah, that would work as well. I mean, I think what it's to do with is what I was trying to think about is how I could use something which was quite fluid. So it's like, because the idea was that I was thinking about a sort of celebrations idea, and or almost like, like a connection, like how, the words can flow into each other. So it's a bit like the idea of trying, I don't know, thinking about, being social or interconnectivity, like all of those kind of things. But yeah, string would definitely work if that's, or coloured wool or any of those things. Because I think the one that I was working on originally was based on the kind of on ribbon. And also, I mean, if you found this a bit fiddly, you could just cut down paper, like strips of paper to the kind of width that you wanted. So we did a kind of, sorry, go on.
Typography and fonts and kind of lettering and words are such an important part of your work, and you've just had such an impact, especially across London on billboards, particularly within the wards for hospital rooms as well. When did you kind of start to get interested in kind of messaging and wording? Has that always been part of your practice, like since you were kind of studying and growing up?
No, not at all, actually. And it's a bit of a funny one, because what happened was I was making I was making murals a bit like I do now, but they were abstract, and they're actually based on my parents used to have that kind of crazy 70s wallpaper in our house, and I used to make these paintings based on them. And I guess what I realized was that actually people were treating them a bit like wallpaper, like you'd kind of just I don't know, people would hang pictures over the top of them almost. And I just had this thought one day about if you write something down, people sort of pause to read it. Like, it's sort of quite a simple sort of thought, but and then I also, they say, sometimes you can't see the wood for the trees kind of thing, but I don't know whether it's because I've not got a great memory, but like I always used to sort of write stuff down. Like, I'd always have these sort of notebooks with, like where I'd heard something or read something in the paper or what have you. So I had all this writing that I collected. So it was a way, I guess, of using that material. So it took me probably 5 or 6 years sort of after finishing college to actually make anything which would look at all like the kind of artwork that I make now. So it was a bit of an accident, really.
Just want to say thank you so much again to everyone that's joined us today. Let us know in the Q&A where you're logging in from. We've got Joanna calling in from sunny Hull. We've got Helena calling in from Bayswater in London. Let us know if you're in a unit where you're joining us from today.
The other thing I realised actually was the first artwork that I was really interested in when I was younger was comics. And I didn't really think about it at the time, but obviously they are just words and it's words and pictures. So I think it had all sort of sunk into, kind of art that I wanted to make. It just didn't quite come out right. Probably wanted to make comics, but wasn't good enough at drawing. So how are people getting on? Are you finding this super fiddly, or are we making some kind of progress?
Everyone, let us know how you're getting on in the Q&A. And also don't forget you can submit your alphabets to our website at the end of the session.
Yeah, I mean, there's no reason why, yours should look anything like, my one. So I'd really be interested to see how different people have used the material. I mean, I think what I'm kind of doing now is making these quite sort of small folds to try and go around the corners.
What's really lovely as well, Mark, is that we've got lots of people joining us from so many different places and trying out using so many different materials. So we've got Laura, who's joining us from Florida. She's using streamers and crepe paper. And we've got Diane joining us from Lancaster, who's really enjoying your work, having a great time, and she's using newspaper.
Yeah, I mean, I guess all you need is really something which has got a bit of kind of give in it, but also weirdly, it's something to do with the material being a bit resistant. Like, it doesn't quite do what you want, and I think it's that kind of which makes it kind of interesting to me, that it's a bit kind of awkward. So how are we doing? So it's quite, as you can see, it's quite a slow process in a way. Now I've got H to do now, so I guess that's probably one that would be, logically I would just do that using 3 pieces of paper, but I'm going to try and do it with one, see what happens.
Laura in Florida has just learnt the word Pritt stick. I think that we had someone joining from US last week who was using something called a Mod Podge.
Mod Podge.
Mod Podge, which I think is an American sort of equivalent, maybe. Which I'd never heard of.
Technically, we should say glue sticks, shouldn't we? It's like
we don't have the Pritt stick brand, do we?
Exactly. I've actually got a Scotch one. So kind of by folding it back over itself, and can make these letters out of one single strip.
Good to have Greenfields joining us as well. Hello to all you guys. We did a project at Greenfields back in 2019.
Of course, I mean, the other thing is I've been using like a single color for each of these, but there's no reason why, if you want to do you know, like a multicolored one, you could do that. I'm just going to do that thing of trying to straighten this down again. So glue on first seems to be the way to go, making this kind of anchor, and then from that, I don't know how you guys are all doing. I think I've got more glue on my fingers than on the actual paper. It's lucky it's Pritt stick, not super glue, otherwise I'd be stuck. Yeah, it's funny actually. Someone mentioned string, but it is a bit like tying a knot, isn't it? That's the kind of whole thing is a bit like that.
You've got lots of people finding your workshop very relaxing today, Mark, which is great to hear. Hello.
Good, I'm glad.
Hello to everyone in the PQ in Hull. Thank you so much for joining us today. And thank you also to Powell Ward at the Ladywell unit in Lewisham. Thank you so much. We really appreciate you being here, and we hope you're having a wonderful time.
Just down the road from me. So I'm gonna try and persevere with this idea. I mean, actually, one thing I didn't try out, which is I think I don't know if you guys have got the same streamers that I have, but the ones that I have are kind of different coloured on the back of them. So they're kind of yellow on the other side. So I might try and see if I can do something with that. Trying to use both colours.
Just to give you kind of an indication of time, Mark, and everyone participating, we've got about 20 minutes left of today's workshop, but do feel free to carry on long after the workshop ends. Take your time, and remember to share your work with us on our website.
Yeah, and yeah, definitely. I mean, I'm going to try and get through it. I know it might time goes quite quickly, doesn't it, when you're doing these kind of things, and so I'm, I guess, getting to halfway with the alphabet. But yeah, if you can, make sure to hang on to them, because we're going to use these fonts.
I really like the one with the yellow background.
What's that, sorry?
That J with the seeing the yellow underneath is really nice.
Yeah, that's just, like I say, I have sort of tried to use the other side of the paper.
Is there a reason why we're using grid paper today, Mark?
Well, it was just so we could see. It just helps. I mean, I guess originally I was thinking that we use it to sort of make it quite accurate, but actually, it's just to help you more with the verticals, so you can line up the verticals, see where they are. But I mean, it depends how careful you want to be as well. That you could very accurately follow the grid, but I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to switch over to another piece of paper so that I can keep it kind of clearer for you, and I'll move this one up here. I think I've got the size sort of slightly wrong, so I can't quite fit three lines on. Right, green, I think. I'll try and find the end of the green streamer now. So I'm just doing that thing, like I said earlier, of running it between my thumb and forefinger to give a bit of a help. But yeah, sort of going back to what you were saying, Jen, it's sort of quite useful to be able to see where the vertical lines need to go. I mean, one thing we could do if, you know, I don't know if people have got access to scanners, you know, would be to scan the you know, the final fonts, and then, you know, you could do all sorts of things with them on on a computer or. So next week I'm going to ask you to respond to a question, and then we're going to use these fonts to make a text-based artwork using this font. So we're going to treat these almost like it's almost going to be a bit like a still life or something. So we're going to look at these, and we're going to look at how the paper folds under each other and how it might look as a drawing. I'm just going to show you. I had a quick go at doing this last and practicing doing a drawing of it. My drink is a cup of tea. But yeah, so trying to sort of use how the folded paper looked to make a drawing. But that's for next week. We've also, if you don't feel so confident drawing, you should have some these kind of printouts as well. So one of the other things you could do is like look at trying to sort of shade some of these to make sort of three-dimensional letters as well. But I think hopefully we can just work with what we're doing. I feel like I'm going to miss a letter out, and it's going to be really embarrassing. Okay. Probably need to speed up a bit. It's actually quicker, I think, if you don't have to. If you kind of are tearing each letter, it's probably a sort of more time-consuming than doing this thing of taking like a long piece and folding it. Not that that matters, but
so just to let everyone know, the printout that Mark was referring to is available to download from our website, and you can print it from there as well.
now, if you would, I mean, like I mentioned earlier, I'm not really an expert on the formalities of type, and I'm sure breaking all kinds of typography rules here, because I think, you know, when you look at kind of alphabets or fonts, there's this sort of, there's an idea that things should be a sort of proportion to each other, but I think, you know, this isn't really the thing about this, which is interesting to me, is making something which is sort of, it's not supposed to be perfect. Like, it's about, you know, it's more personal. And actually the imperfections, all those things, are, you know, give it kind of character. I hope you're not all getting in such a mess with these streamers as I am. I can't. So I think I seem to remember from school that M is the sort of halfway of the alphabet. So I'm about halfway, and that's taken sort of 25 minutes. So
I think what's really lovely about this technique as well, Mark, is that you could almost kind of apply it to lots of different symbols, whether that's kind of numbers or mathematical symbols, and kind of really experiment and take it much further as well.
Yeah, it would take you a long time to kind of start leaving messages in a.
That's okay. We've got a whole week till the next workshop to get it done.
True. Right, this is O now, which I think is probably going to be the trickiest. So I'm going to try and do this in a single piece. I'm going to cheat actually and just cover the whole thing with glue and see what happens. Okay, I hadn't tried that before, and I think that works quite well. So if you actually run the glue along the length of the paper, you can then actually, like whoever mentioned using the tape earlier, I think that what I've just done there is like a kind of a way of making your own masking tape.
Just in terms of a time check, Mark, we've got about 10 minutes of the session left.
Okay. So I think what we're probably going to end up doing, if that's okay, is just to keep going on doing the letters for the rest of the session. I had thought we might have time to do a bit of drawing as well, but I think this is probably going to take up the rest of the time. So yeah, what I was saying is that if you actually kind of cover the whole bit of the glue, tape like that, you can kind of, it's quite easy then.
Diane's just sending a message saying that M is impossible with one strip.
Which one?
The M.
I think yeah.
Like, I guess people can, you're making one alphabet now, but people might realize towards the end there's a specific way they like doing it and might want to kind of make a whole new alphabet in that technique almost. Yeah,
definitely. I mean, I'm looking back at sort of the ones that I've done, and I feel like, you know, like I did the F with the three strips. It looks quite different, and I'll probably go back and do that one differently. I mean, I like the ones where it's more sort of like it's folded and probably messier, if anything.
I guess you want to be able to see that it's made of the streamers, not kind of hide that.
Well, exactly. So this is a Q, which I think is going to be quite a tricky one, and I'm using my newfound method of cheating and making my own masking tape, but so it might be an idea before next week to when you sort of store, just make sure, I don't know how kind of reliable this kind of glue is, so it might be an idea to kind of store it flat somewhere. We don't want to get to next week and then find that we've got lots of small pieces of streamer kind of in a pile.
Do you have a letter, Mark, that you really kind of particularly enjoy to create out of all the letters?
Oh, I don't know yet. I'm still going. I'm still discovering. I think I quite liked J, actually. That came out quite well. probably when you get to the end of the alphabet and we do kind of X and Z, and you think, I'm never going to use those. Why did I? Now, yeah, I think S I've got next, which I think is going to be quite an interesting one. Let's give that a go. I wonder if anyone else has picked up, has anyone got any handy tips now on ways of doing this?
You said when you've sort of done this workshop before, Mark, someone had used the streamer on its side.
Yeah, that looks really cool. Actually, they'd kind of yeah, were kind of almost, it's a bit difficult to do, but yeah, just sort of like this kind of thing. I can't do that very easily now because I've got so much glue on my fingers. But for instance, like a kind of O, shape, was something like that.
I guess it's harder to stick down, but it's quite interesting.
Yeah, but I mean, it looks really nice. And also, when I was showing you that picture earlier of that Ruscha thing, like it is much more like you could do something really interesting if you had, like some light with the shadows and stuff.
So final time check for everyone for today's session. We've got about 5 minutes left. So please don't rush. Of course, you can carry this one outside of the workshop if you'd like to. But if there were any kind of final questions that you'd like to ask Mark, please do so now.
Yeah, that's right. If there's anything, and like I say, for the next session, it's going to be a bit different from this. It's going to be much more kind of based on observing and doing some drawing from using these fonts. So if you can bring along these with you for reference, and then also we'll need things like pencils, what things that you like to draw or paint with, so felt pens, pencil crowns, pencils, whatever you like to use. Okay.
We just had a question mark whether you have a favorite
question mark.
Question mark. I'd like to see a question mark in the font. A question asking if you have a favorite brand of tape or streamer, I guess, or is it just?
No. I mean, these were just very cheap ones that we bought online at a well-known online retailer. So they weren't anything. There's nothing sort of special about the stuff that I'm using. And I think it's probably about 6 or 7 millimeters wide. It's probably, but yeah, I mean, it could be much. I think if someone was using crepe paper, I mean, you could tear strips up, or you could use I don't know, I guess even much finer stuff you could use as well if you wanted to, like, and someone mentioned string as well. I mean, I think that would work quite well. I guess the good thing about the streamers is it's just quite easy to sort of tear, and it's quite annoying because it does move around quite a bit, but actually that makes it quite easy to work with.
Diane's just let us know a really brilliant tip that I'd like to share with everybody. So she's just wanted to say that she's actually glued the shape of the letter and folded the paper onto it. So I guess, yeah,
okay. Yeah.
Interesting.
It glues on the paper. Is that right?
Does it glue the W shape or whatever onto the paper, and then you just sort of move the paper around the shape? Is that?
I think so. Yeah.
I think that's what she means. Yeah, it's probably a slightly more efficient way than what I'm trying to do.
Yeah, that is the way Diane is doing it.
I've tied a knot in mine. I've also haven't really made brilliant use of the grid, because I've noticed what I'm doing is mine's the letters are getting bigger as I go along. I guess one of the things with the grid is the idea that you would keep an eye on the scale, but you know, that's fine.
Diane said she finds it the most fun the first way you showed us. So it's interesting to balance between kind of efficiency or fun, or
oh, what, just sticking it down at each point?
bit by bit, I think. Yeah.
Oh, I didn't mean to do that. Okay, I think probably got a minute or two left, haven't we? So let's see if I can actually do the last.
Timed it pretty perfectly.
Well, it was all, you know, carefully planned. But yeah, I'd really like to see how you've all chosen different ways to do this, and if you like to share some images, that'd be great.
We'll let everyone know how to do that at the end of the session.
Might be nice. We could share some of those at the beginning of next week's session too.
Yeah, I don't know how everyone else is going. I'm kind of struggling slightly now because I've got so much glue on my fingers. It's like every time I touch anything, it sticks to my hands. Okay. Now, normally in a font also you would have punctuation and numbers and stuff like that, but I think we can just have our alphabet. So I'm going to move this out of the way. So, yeah, I didn't quite manage to get it onto one sheet, but there's my attempt in various parts. Quite like to do this F again. I think it looks a bit strange compared to everything else.
And that's so brilliant, Mark. We did that just in the nick of time. So thank you very much.
Oh, you're welcome. Like I say, it's there's no rush if you you know, aren't quite done. There's plenty of time in the next week just to finish off any odd letters that you might not have got done in time. Okay, so I think that's pretty much out of time, but yeah, thank you all for joining. And so next week, if you can bring along the what we've done today, we're going to use that to make some to respond to a kind of question and to make some sort of text-based drawings.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Mark. That was really, really wonderful. And the alphabet you've created looks amazing. And I can't believe you did it in 45 minutes. And it's been really fun for us all to have a go and making our own as well. Thank you so much to everyone that submitted a question and let us know where you've been joining us from today. And we're actually now going to launch a very quick poll, and it's just for everyone who's joining us to give us a very quick idea of how you found the workshop today. So that should be popping on your screens now. And that will really help us to improve and develop workshops in the future.